Straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. All right, you're watching, of course, Firstpost, and today there's a lot lined up on the show. We're building up, of course, to a very, very exciting encounter. That's India versus Pakistan. But in focus right now is not the rivalry or the lineup or what is it that India and Pakistan will plan on Sunday. It is the pitch that's in focus, and it's termed borderline dangerous. We'll get you more on that and how it might impact the big marquee clash, and is it also going to affect the entire tournament? We also have a very, very special exclusive coming your way. He's a little shy, he's a little slow and soft-spoken, but he's the reigning world champion. There's a lot of pressure on Ding Liren, who's joined us from Norway to tell us more about the big face-off that he's lined up against him. That's towards the end of the year. He sheds his light on facing D Gukesh, the candidate's winner from India, on what Indian chess is currently at the cusp of. He's also spoken about his toughest opponent and the toughest months that he faced before heading into this comeback at the Norway Chess. And of course, there's a lot more that's lined up as well, including another champion. And this one's from Italy. What's the secret to Jannik Sinner's rise to the top and being world number one finally? Is this his pasta-making skills? We'll tell you more on that, but first a look at the headlines in Sports 360. We'll start with cricket and the T20 World Cup. Australia overcome an early wobble to beat Oman by 39 runs. Australia posted 164 for 5 in 20 overs, with David Warner and Marcus Stoinis scoring half-centuries. In reply, Oman only managed to score 125 runs. Australia next play England on Saturday. Over in football, it is reported that around 6 Premier League clubs might be forced to sell their players. This to comply with the division's profit and sustainability rules. The clubs will have to show that they have made losses of no more than $134 million over the last 3 years. The list includes clubs like Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Leicester. Over in tennis and the French Open, Alexander Zverev has reached the semi-finals for the 4th consecutive year. This was after he defeated Australia's Alex de Minaur 6-4, 7-6, 6-4. Over in the women's draw, Mira Andreeva beat world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka in a tough 3-setter, 6-7, 6-4, 6-4. Andreeva is now the youngest Grand Slam semi-finalist since Martina Hingis at the US Open in 1997 and Coco Gauff at Wimbledon. Novak Djokovic may miss out on Wimbledon that starts on the 1st of July. The Serb underwent surgery for an injury he sustained during the French Open. Djokovic had to withdraw from the tournament due to the meniscus tear. He's lost his number 1 ranking because of this. And over in athletics, long-distance Kenyan runner Ronix Kipruto has been banned for 6 years in a doping case. Disciplinary panel found abnormalities in Kipruto's samples during Tokyo Olympics qualifications. Kipruto's results since 2018 have all been stripped. This includes the 2019 World Championship bronze and the 2020 10K road world record. Reports say Kipruto will appeal. And fresh reports coming out from basketball that the NBA is closing in on media rights deals with networks like NBC, ESPN and Amazon. This is expected to generate about $76 billion over the next 11 years. Comcast-owned NBC would reportedly pay an average of $2.5 billion a year to show around 100 NBA games per season. It feels like an I told you so moment, because just last week, even before the start of the tournament, we spoke about the pitches at the T20 Cricket World Cup. The pitches in the US, particularly at the Nassau ground in New York. We watched what happened at the opening match between Sri Lanka and South Africa and thought, this doesn't look good. The total of 77 batting first, 2 appalling, and the chase done in a little over 16 overs even more so. Now, you could have penned this down to it being a reflection of lack of application, maybe. But there was the thought of the track being at fault too. And many were waiting for the India match on Wednesday to banish any notion of the pitches in Nassau not being the best. cut to post the match. And this is what the Indian cricket captain has left us with. Rohit Sharma says, "I don't know what to expect from the pitch, to be honest. We'll prepare as if the conditions are going to be exactly like this, especially this weekend." He's referring to the clash against Pakistan, and this is going to be a kind of game where all 11 of us will need to contribute, says Rohit Sharma. Now, he said it. India won the toss and rightfully got Ireland into bat first. I mean, if you caught the pitch on your screens, or those of you watching it live at the stadiums, you could see how green it was. It has the sheen of the park outside my house. The highlights video up on the official website will not show you the entire picture, how the match truly went. It's just 10 minutes long, but if you caught the match live, you'd have seen how fast bowlers danced on that track. There was a lot of seam movement and bounce on that pitch. Ireland batter Harry Tector couldn't even watch his edge getting pouched. He was wincing in pain from the hit on his hand that went on to strike him on his helmet. He had to undergo a concussion test right after. Indian batters Rohit Sharma and Rishabh Pant got some nasty blows owing to the uneven bounce. Skipper Rohit, in fact, retiring hurt. Some spoke about how the captain would have been fine post the hit on his arm, but he decided to retire himself to give someone else a chance to bat. The match was in the bag, and that this gesture by Rohit shows great team spirit of the Indian team being one. Now, I want to very politely correct those saying this. The team is in great spirits anyway. This incident is definitely not the one to reiterate that. Rohit Sharma sensed discomfort and so he left. He didn't probably want to get another odd bounce, so he walked out knowing the match was in the bag and that he needn't be out there for longer and risk another strike that could make things worse. It's a long tournament, in fact. And Rohit Sharma doesn't hold back, which is why he even made that statement about how he wasn't sure how this pitch will behave come Sunday. Despite the Indian batting coach playing it all down at the press conference, saying it is challenging for the batters. Challenging is one word to use, but here's what former cricket captain turned commentator Andy Flower said about the pitches in Nassau, and challenging was not the word he used.
"I've got to say, that is not a good surface to play an international match on. It is bordering on dangerous. You saw the ball bouncing from a length both ways. So skidding low occasionally, but in the main, bouncing unusually high and striking people on the thumb, on the gloves, on the helmet, and making life very, very difficult for any batsman."
Here's what I'm building up to. A pitch that is being termed borderline dangerous will take center stage this Sunday for two teams across the border, facing off in an epic clash. The match that takes care of the revenue and the earnings of the stakeholders in a big event such as the Cricket World Cup, India versus Pakistan, is suddenly threatening to derail ICC's grand plans because the focus is on the pitch. There's a reason India versus Pakistan is important in a World Cup. It gets in the eyeballs, the viewership, the ratings, the sponsors, the crowd. An event such as the World Cup rides on the success of this one face-off. It doesn't matter who wins, but the contest needs to be of epic proportions, one that will be evenly fought between bat and ball. A low-scoring affair then will just not do. You're seeing it on your screens. It's not just us here. Commentators echo a similar concern. So my next question is, can the pitch get any better by this weekend? And does ICC have reasons to worry? The answer in brief, no and yes. Any fresh pitch like a cricket bat is much like a cricket bat and always is better when well seasoned. That's why before any big tournament in India itself, you'd see the pitches being prepped, some domestic matches being played on freshly relayed surfaces to break it in. It's like that expensive new shoe you decide to buy. It keeps giving you soreness and shoe bites, but you continue wearing it in the hope it'll loosen someday soon. ICC is exactly in that position. They've chosen a lucrative, uncharted venue and are waiting for it to stop biting them. It was going to be difficult to expect much from these pitches even when they were getting prepared. As I mentioned late last week, a drop in pitch is man-made, it crossed over continents, and conditions in America aren't as conducive to pitch grooming. compared to countries around the world where cricket is played regularly, where there is enough humidity for the pitch to show some wear and tear, to settle in. Let me explain this further in the context of Nassau. The pitch Sri Lanka played on was the first game on that pitch. The one India played on was the second game on that pitch. It still was no better, was it? Not any different. There is one more game in Nassau before the Sunday marquee clash. That's between South Africa and Netherlands. Even if they get to play on one of the new tracks, which India and Pakistan can play on for the Sunday face-off, what's the guarantee it will play any differently to the two pitches we've seen so far and be any better? As mentioned, 10 pitches in total were transported, 4 for Nassau for the main ground and 6 for the practice net sessions. Sources close to the Indian team have said they are upset with the quality of the pitches. They feel these are substandard. They said that right when they started training. So logically, they are behaving quite similarly to the match tracks. And it's not just India. According to a report, South African batters refused to play Andre Nokia and Kagiso Rabada in the net session. Is the ICC taking an India-Pakistan match for granted? To be that carpet that they can drape over such concerns that are large enough to create more cracks on the tournament than the pitch already. If you witness the batters getting bruised by the searing pace of Arshdeep Singh, Jasprit Bumrah and Josh Little, picture taller pacers with more pace coming in hard at you. That's Pakistan on Sunday against India. It surely feels borderline dangerous. Now, this is an exclusive like none other. Just about everyone the world over is waiting for this face-off. The match for the big championship title between reigning world champion and candidates winner D Gukesh, of course, and Ding Liren. It's been a tough year for Ding Liren, and he's made his comeback at the Norway chess tournament after a big break that he had. And he was very gracious to give us here at Firstpost some minutes of his time. Liren opens up about his own difficulties and what criticism he's faced so far, about his impending battle against D Gukesh and how he rates this player, of not wanting to play in India if given the choice, India as the next superpower in chess, and also reveals who his toughest opponent has been. Take a look. All right, it's very rare to speak to a world champion, a reigning world champion, and he hasn't given any interviews. In fact, just before joining in, that's the first thought that comes to all our minds. He's in a bit of the news as well. He's someone who D Gukesh is waiting to take on at the end of the year. Joining me all the way from Norway, right in the middle of the Norway chess tournament, is the reigning world champion, Ding Liren. Ding, thank you so much for speaking to us. It's definitely a privilege. Thanks for speaking to Firstpost.
Hello everyone, I'm Ding Liren.
Ding, you just mentioned that you don't give interviews, and this is the first time I think you're speaking since the win, since the world champion win. Is it a very conscious decision to stay away from interviews and general chit-chat that you want to refrain yourself from?
No, I agreed to get interviewed in nearly every turn. It's my first interview by the Indian media. I already done 3 before the tournament, and now I have another 2 during the tournament.
Ding, the first question, of course, I want to ask you is, the Norway chess tournament is underway. It hasn't been a very easy one for you, and it has been a bit of a comeback of sorts after your world champion and when you had to take a bit of a break as well. How's the comeback been for you? How do you feel getting back and about your game at this point?
Well, this tournament I began slowly, but in the middle of the tournament I lost 4 games in a row. That's really hurting me. From the day before yesterday, finally I began to score points. I began to draw, and it's a good sign. It shows I can get back to the scoreboard. But yesterday I missed some chance. At least I'm playing much better than several days ago.
Do you feel a change in yourself from the time you won the world champion to this point? Is there a change you feel in the mental makeup or in the way you tackle an opponent or a competition?
I don't know if it will be because of the title. Because everybody want to beat me now. Yesterday, Fabiano, he chose a very risky opening. He even want to beat me with black pieces. So I have to do my best to try to avoid losses in such cases.
You know, there are a lot of these comments that have come, you know, with Magnus Carlsen saying that there's something broken, Nakamura saying he's not what I remember of him or the best that he was. Do you somewhere echo their sentiments? Or, you know, I know you came with a witty response saying you're fixing things, but how do you sort of react when you hear your opponents and people whom you've obviously gotten the better of saying such things?
Actually, I don't want to listen to other people saying. They said I'm not in my best shape. They said I have some mental problems, maybe. But I don't want to follow their instructions.
How tough were the last few months personally for you, Ding? When you know you did take a break, and you know sport is hard. Chess is no different from any other sport. The mental toughness that you require to be at the top of any sport is intense. Tell us a bit about what forced you to take a break, and how have you sort of looked within, and how have you worked on yourself to come back out and play the sport again?
I take a long break last year, but considering the results this year, I may have to take another long break to recover from my bad results.
Right. The other question, obviously, I want to ask you is regarding the Indian contenders. So many of Indian players in the top 10. You know, you've got Pragyananda as well, whom you're playing currently at the Norway Chess Tournament. D Gukesh, whom you are set to play later in the year. What are your thoughts, you know, as someone who's also been a premier of, or someone who's sort of set the trend from your own country when it comes to the sport? What do you think of these youngsters from India, and how do you view Indian talent when it comes to chess?
Well, at least India had at least 3 huge talents. They are among world top 10. Um, India, the chess bomb in India, where there are so many young talents, occurs. I know I have a lot of fans in India, but during the matches, they will, of course, support Gukesh.
How are you looking forward to your big face-off with D Gukesh in particular? I'm sure you'd have followed his game and his performance over the last few months. How do you rate someone like him, and what are your thoughts ahead of that face-off?
Gukesh had a phenomenal rise to the top, to among top 10. He's now among top 10. And yes, I'm looking forward to meet him in the end of the year.
You know, obviously there is a lot of reports suggesting that that face-off has to happen. Maybe India has thrown up its hand as to host that particular contest. Does the place matter at all? You know, there is obviously going to be that Indian, you know, wave, that ambience as well. But does it matter at all, especially when it comes to chess, where it happens or where the face-off happens?
If I can choose, I hope the tournament will be held in a third country, for example, Singapore. I'm not so eager to visit India in World Championship.
All right. Obviously, the other question is you're currently playing Pragyananda as well. Your thoughts on how he is as a competitor? He's also done well for himself over the last 1 year, and he's also one of the top chess players in the world. How do you rate him, and while especially when playing against him, how do you rate him as a chess player as well?
He rises also very quickly. Now he He had more than 2,715 points in ratings. He won second place in last year's World Cup, and he's very good at opening preparation, and so he's another player not to reckon with.
Do you feel that there is a sudden resurgence when it comes to Indian talent? You know, there was earlier, it was all about, Russia doing really well in chess. Then it became the American wave as well. You've got someone like, you've got quite a few players from India putting India up. And do you feel that there's a shift in terms of dominance when it comes to the sport itself? And do you feel India is up there when it comes to top quality chess contenders?
There was a question, who will dominate chess world in 2050? And many people say it will be India, but now it shows this year might came earlier when India dominates chess world.
You know, there's something called as the confessions room that we've seen at the Norway chess tournament. How come you've not given, have you given your hand at it? Have you tried your hand at it, or it's something that you stay away from?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
I was talking about the confessions room. There's a confessions room, and I think Nakamura keeps visiting that as well. Have you ever considered going into the confessional room yourself, Ding?
Maybe in the last 2 games I will visiting confession room once. I haven't been there before. In Western House, I have been there once and talk my games, my positions.
At this point, obviously, the tournament didn't pan out the way you would have liked it to. What are you telling yourself in terms of how do you look forward? Because do you think at this point you are ready to take on Gukesh when it comes to the big face-off in a couple of months down the line?
There are still a couple months ahead, and there are still many huge important tournaments before the championship. I think if I can avoid the last place in any of the tournament, I may even win this one.
At this point, Ding, what is the one thing do you feel that separates you or puts you apart from someone like Gukesh? Because everybody's interest is around that particular contest, and you would obviously be aware. But what is it that separates you two, you think?
He's a strong opponent. He performed quite solid. He prepared hard, and he's the guy to watch.
And when it comes to chess, just a last question before we let you go. Who's the toughest opponent that you ever faced so far?
Who is the what?
The toughest opponent you ever faced so far, and why?
No, answer clear. It's Magnus Carlsen. He's a GOAT of chess.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Ding, and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, what if I told you how better you get at playing tennis is linked to how well you can cook your pasta? This is quite a weird analogy, and who would have possibly equate the art of making a good pasta to the art of being an ace tennis player? Well, only a true Italian could maybe say that, the original connoisseur of pasta. Trust the new world #1 to believe this. When the ATP World Rankings come out on Monday, Jannik Sinner will be on top of that list, toppling the long-standing legendary Novak Djokovic. And it all happened right after Djokovic withdrew from the French Open because of an injury. Now, we said at the start of the year when Sinner beat Djokovic and then, of course, went on to win the Grand Slam, the Australian Open title, that this was possibly the moment of a new shift in the power dynamics, that the new world order was finally here, and Sinner was spearheading that. It's a tough contest he faces against his biggest rival on the tour, which is Carlos Alcaraz, in the semi-final of the French Open this week. But whatever the result, Sinner has shown the right of staying on top, and he's shown that this is where he truly belongs. He's had to work his way there, which brings me to the food and the pasta analogy. His love for good food and cooking good food, of course, comes from his parents, his father in particular, who's been a chef. So a lot of the sense of perfection in his own art stems from the perfection he sees his father gunning for in the kitchen. No wonder he says this.
When each of us makes pasta pomodoro for the first time, you say it's missing salt, and you add more salt. Then you say it's missing fresh tomatoes, and you put them in. Then you add in basil. So you add ingredients to always improve more. You need to find the right balance. My dish is also not perfect yet, I can improve it.
For Jannik, pasta making and eating pasta, equally important. He, in fact, even ribs his coach Darren Cahill to enjoy eating pasta some more. But of course, it's not just the love for food, but also the way he approaches the game, his mental strength. It all comes from his father and his father's profession. Both his parents, in fact, never interfered in his career or what he wanted to do. And he has been forever grateful of that.
I wish everyone could have my parents because they always let me choose whatever I wanted to. I don't see them so often, unfortunately. But when I see them, it's always a great time. They never put pressure on myself, which for me is maybe the key why I'm here today.
A lot of this, of course, comes from his Italian roots. He feels strongly about his heritage. He says he's furthering the Italian movement. At just 22, he's also being celebrated as the best thing for sports in Italy. And there have been popular names, of course, like MotoGP racer Valentino Rossi, footballer Paolo Maldini, four-time swimming world champion Federica Pellegrini. But Sinner seems to be the cynosure of all eyes at the moment. Just like Emmanuel Macron adores and shows off the French pride through Kylian Mbappe, celebrating him every way he can, a young Jannik Sinner seems to have attained similar status and fans at the highest of places.
Grandissimo.
It means a lot, but I think it's great for Italy. We're a great country with great coaches and players, and we can see this now, how this moment is. I'm happy to be part of this Italian movement. People, they start to play tennis now more and more, which is great to see. I think that's the most important.
Sinner has achieved something truly historic. He's the first Italian to be world #1. So he isn't just growing as a youngster on the tennis circuit, but also furthering the Italian dream. He's already growing as a brand, and Formula One too seems to realize that. Yet he doesn't seem to be getting carried away with it. Sinner has accepted success with grace, and the perfectionist that he is, he's probably still finding ways to make that pasta even better each time. Just like his serve or his forehand. Attaining perfection, like cooking pasta, is a journey, not a destination. Time for last serve. The Euros are less than 10 days away, and the excitement is only building up in Germany, the host nation. Here is how the cities that will host all of the matches are gearing up for the big one. That does it here on First Sports. Thanks for joining in. As always, I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. A first-of-a-kind sports show that's played on a different turf. A first-of-a-kind sports show that will always come up with a winner. Are you looking for perspectives that go beyond the scoreline? Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani, and catch a 360-degree view of the sporting world with me here on Firstpost in our special First Sports.